True Dudes podcast. We're going to talk about a few different things. For example, in Arkansas, I think it says Arkansas,
It is.
they have completely and totally eradicated a leftist word. We're bringing back the original dictionary. It's going to be great. And, well, unfortunately, in the rest of the United States, there are some crazy shootings going on. You'll never believe what the leftists are blaming it on. Well, maybe you will, but we'll talk about that. In some other news, the doomsday clock is moving crazy close in Russia. They're predicting a massive 2008 repeat of the housing crisis. That's going to be fun. And we're going to talk about a very unique story that happened here in Calgary, where the police are up to some kind of shady, no good shenanigans. And we're kind of hoping that you can help us figure out what are they up to, because you know what, you can't trust the cops nowadays. They are completely like hijacked. So we're going to talk about this and so much more on the Shrewd Dudes podcast.
Okay, welcome back to another Tuesday Newsday.
Yeah.
From another long weekend from the dog place.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it was just a weekend of snow, which meant that I actually had to go and work again.
Oh, you poor dear. Oh, someone's complaining.
Instead of
here.
just, oh, yes, last 3 weeks have been, I'm going to drive around and look busy, but I'm really not.
Well, I mean, it's been nice for me. My job requires to do windows, and warm weather is much nicer for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, next week is not going to be so nice.
I know. I'm not excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, bring back the warm weather.
Yeah, coats and boots and, well, I'm already in boots, but yes.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
Not going to be great.
Anything specific and special that happened? Well, I guess you had a games day.
I had a big time games day, a board game night.
Yeah.
We played an epic round of Terraforming Mars, which I've never played before. And that was an epic game. And people came over and we played all sorts of like board games. We got to keep that social energy up. Mm-hmm. And and by the way, I haven't had a chance to tell you, but I'm finally moving on from that church I'm going to.
Oh,
yeah. They kind of crossed the big line this weekend, and I was like, yeah.
What line did they cross?
Yeah, the pastor basically was saying, like, who here is looking for a miracle? You just got to reach out and pray and declare it. You just got to reach out and take it. And I'm like, done. Like that's like a New Apostolic Reformation kind of stuff. Like, no,
boom.
Like it was just like a step too far. I'm like, no.
Oh, Daddy, I will say we have been praying for this.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
We love you, Daddy. We love you.
I know. I love you too.
Yeah.
Begrudgingly. But tell me about you. Tell me about you. What's been going on with you?
No. As I was saying earlier, had an interesting conversation with my brother. Apparently, he is a 51st stater, and then accidentally, because my wife was doing a live stream in our room without telling me, I flashed some people because it was in our room. I'm like, oh, hello.
Did you at least like run out giggling? Like,
no, I just covered myself up and just like I huddled over to the bed and I'm like, can you turn that off, please?
No shame here. No shame.
No shame. I'm like, please turn that off.
Like, Griffin, why aren't you wearing any pants? Why aren't you? It's like, you're all right, Stevens.
Yep. Why aren't you wearing any pants? Because this is my room.
What were you thinking, man?
Exactly.
Seriously.
Exactly.
What were you thinking? I know. It's crazy. Yeah.
All right. But that is not everything that we have to cover because there were many terrible things that happened over the weekend.
Stephen was not the only one getting cheeky this week.
Well, some were cheeky in a good way.
Oh, in a good way.
Like Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders from Arkansas. Executive order to respect the Latino community by eliminating culturally insensitive words from official use in government.
Woo! Winning.
I know. Government has a responsibility to respect its citizens and use ethnically appropriate language, particularly when referring to ethnic minorities. According to Pew Research, only 3% of American Latinos and Hispanics use the word Latinx or Latinx.
It's Latinx.
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 So one can no more easily remove gender from Spanish and other Romance languages than one can remove vowels and verbs from English. It is the policy of the government's administration to prohibit the use of culturally insensitive words for official state government business. Therefore, I, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, acting under the authority vested in me, do hereby order the following. All must remove it in official state documents. I'm like, good. This is great. It's just like, let's use the power of government to get rid of wokeism. Because, no, you cannot change to gender-neutral language in a gendered language. Like, that is what gender is. Gender is a language concept. You can't... I could not believe how many times, not necessarily over the weekend, but over the past, like, probably 5 days, how many times I'm like, gender is not, like...
Gender is a social construct.
It's a social... Well, it's a social construct, but it's a social construct that's based upon language.
Theory. Yeah.
Not sexuality. Language.
Based on biology. It's totally theory.
Yeah. Oh, and like this one I was like, okay, like there's no biological, like it's not biological reality. There are more than two genders.
Oh, and then how this adorable. You've been indoctrinated hard.
I know. And so they're like, well, this is a genetic textbooks that says that like gender is determined by feelings and not like sex. And I'm like, yes, this genetics textbook was written in 2017, and every other previous edition does not say this.
It's funny how like people now accept that absurdities make more sense than like logic. It's completely backwards. I encountered this like a similar thing when I was at Bible college in Vancouver, where there was like a whole controversy like in like our like we were talking about it, about how like, you know, Bible should like change their language to make it sound more inclusive. And I'm like, okay, you guys clearly don't understand how gendered languages work. Like Spanish, Portuguese, even I think German too. Like, you know, like lots of languages have gendered nouns. To me, when they say hermanos, which is brothers in Spanish, I'm like, I get what they're saying. I'm like, that applies to everyone. It's like, but you're only referring to like men. I'm like, no, that's not how the language works. Like everyone understands that when you're saying hermanos, it means everyone. This is not a complex thing in their language. It's only English where we have an issue with this, because we don't have that.
White woke elitists,
because we're weird. It's like the same thing that happens with the Latino. It's weird for someone who speaks Spanish to say Latinx or Latinx.
Oh, so weird.
Because we know we know Latina. And like, what are you? Oh, like, oh, I'm a Latina. I'm a Latino. Like, that's just normal. It's such a weird thing to say, like, I'm Latinx. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Because you're trying to pretend that the gender, like, you know, construct of the language doesn't exist. So, artificially, this is proof that the left, their strategy is they weaponize and they change language. Language is their weapon, and they basically have to make it by force. And then they'll argue that, oh, it changes naturally, organically. I'm like, no, you're forcing it. You're the 1984 like thought police. So none of that crap. Arkansas, good job, well done, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We salute you.
Alrighty, moving on to terrible things. And places we certainly do not salute, like Atlanta. So, over the weekend, violent protest in downtown Atlanta over killing in quote, of activists. A protest turned violent in downtown Atlanta on Saturday night in the wake of a death of an environmental activist who was shot by authorities this week after officials said the 26-year-old shot a state trooper.
I wonder why he got shot. So I just can't figure it out.
I know. Masked activists dressed in all black threw rocks and lit fireworks in front of a skyscraper that houses the Atlanta Police Foundation. Shattering large glass windows, they then lit a police cruiser on fire, smashed more windows, and vandalized wall with anti-police graffiti as stunned tourists scattered. The violent protesters were a subsection of hundreds of demonstrators who had gathered and marched up Atlanta's famed Peachtree Street to mourn the death of a protester, a quote-unquote non-binary person who went by the name Tortuguita.
Tortuguita. That's me, little turtle.
And they are
Again,
a
this is
stupid little
Spanish.
turtle.
They are a stupid little turtle.
Yep. And they apparently use they, it. Okay, I will call them it.
Date.
All right. It was killed Wednesday. As authorities cleared a smoke.
Self-burn. Those are rare.
Yep. Oh, it's like those people who try to identify as clown self. And I'm like, I can go along with that. You are a clown.
With that, you are a clown. I can identify you as a clown.
So, as authorities cleared a small group of protesters from the site of a planned Atlanta area public safety training center that activists have dubbed Cops City, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation had said it was killed by officers after shooting and wounding a state trooper, but activists have apparently questioned officials' versions of events, calling it murder and demanding an independent investigation.
Oh, sure, yeah. You have the right to make demands when you shot a cop.
Yeah. So, it was not recorded on body cameras, but of course, the Bureau said Friday it was determined the trooper was shot in the abdomen by a bullet from a handgun that was in Little Turtle's possession.
Tortuguitas.
So, all evidence says that he shot him.
I remember, they were having a whole conversation about this on Timcast.
Timcast, yep.
And they basically, they made a good point. Whether or not, imagine, okay, let me give you a scenario. Imagine you're outside at night, and somebody comes near you, and they point what looks like a gun at you.
Yep.
Okay? And you, instinctively, fearing for your life, pull out your gun and shoot them first. Now, imagine that person, that their gun wasn't loaded, or that it was a fake gun, like a toy gun,
like that
or anything
one incident.
Else. That doesn't matter. That literally doesn't matter. If you legitimately feel your life in danger, then you have the right
I think back to there was an incident that this person tried to point out to me, saying, oh, look, there was this unarmed individual killed by police. And I look at that incident, and he was unarmed, but he was unarmed in pretend, because he held his hand behind his back to pretend as though he was trying to draw his gun.
Oh.
And then when he did draw his pretend finger pistol, the cop shot him.
Because
it was
you
dark.
Don't have a microsecond to guess.
Well, and the guy was yelling out to the cop, it's like, I've got a gun, I'm going to shoot you. Don't come at me. And the cop's like, don't do it. I will kill you. Don't draw your weapon on me. And then he's like, I'm going to kill you because you're a dirty pig. And then he draws his finger pistol and the cop shoots him. And I'm like, the only guilty party is that moron. Because the cop didn't want to shoot him. I don't know exactly. This situation.
The cop had reasonable presumption that the person was
that there was going to be intent to put the police officer in serious bodily harm.
That is not the reason why. Who's that guy that got shot? That what's his name? Kyle Rittenhouse. The whole fallout from that. Who was the guy that was involved in that?
Oh,
not Rayshard
Brooks. Jacob Blake.
Jacob Blake. Thank you. Jacob Blake. He was in a place he wasn't supposed to be, trying to kidnap or take the kids unlawfully. And he goes. The cops are there, and he goes to his car, threatens to grab a knife, and the cops shot him before he got a knife. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, you shot him! He's an unarmed man." I'm like, he was going for a knife. It could have even been a gun for all they knew. That's reasonable. Anyways, the point is, the left is so absurdly and I like to think there's the difference between the people who are actually actively pushing this, who are bad actors, and the people who are on the street and they just feel like this empowered by this we can get away with anything we want kind of feeling. And unfortunately, if you point a gun at a cop, it is not going to end well for you.
Yeah,
because cops have a legitimate, first, legitimate right to use deadly force if they feel threatened, and two, are trained to what to do if you go after them. There was another incident where I think it was today I heard, that a guy with a sword tried to go after the cops and they shot him. It's like, well, what do you think was going to happen?
Went after them with a shot. They tried to get him with non-lethal rounds. He kept coming, and then they shot him with lethal rounds.
Yeah.
And then there was some protests in Boston. I think
Yeah.
it was in Boston.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you had so much more.
Well, and here's the big takeaway. The left, particularly like the left media, left call politicians, everyone, like they want to make you believe that the most dangerous people are all on the right. That's where the danger is. Oh my gosh, the right is so dangerous, and it is the most it's the most crazy amount of gaslighting, because the most dangerous people, like, actually around today are the left. They have no problem using, either they use like violence, or they use theft, or they use like harassment and intimidation. They're dangerous people. Like, I legitimately, like, I'm concerned nowadays that if I go to some leftist protest, I might get like seriously hurt by Antifa lunatics, especially if there's no police around to kind of monitor. Remember that rally we went to in Edmonton?
Yep.
Edmonton legislature? People were being like literally like attacked on
Rocks
the way
thrown
to
at them.
the
Yep.
Yep. On the way there. Walking through the park to the protest,
Yep.
Antifa like thugs found them or saw them and started beating them up.
Yep.
Like, these are dangerous people.
Oh yeah,
And
completely,
so, yeah.
100% dangerous. And these are the people that they have such a kind of a one-track mind in all these cases. Like, it doesn't matter what the situation is. Like, as the article states, they put out a public notification and drew a group to their event saying police killed. My wife got me iced tea, but I didn't know it was iced tea, so I just saw there was brown water, and I'm like, "What is this?"
Well, if you were in Springfield, you have to use the motto: if it's brown, drink it down. If it's black, send it back.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to send this back. It's not bad.
Because it's not black.
It's not black. I know exactly. But like, it's just the idea that, oh well, if the police killed him, then it doesn't matter what the circumstances are.
Well, it's really simple to them.
Yeah,
in their eyes, any and all, like shootings or killings, any and all like violence towards them is unjustified. It doesn't matter who did it, what the reason is. They don't care.
Unless of course, in after the fact, if the conservatives say that the police were in the wrong, that's the only time they'll say the police were in the right. I talked to someone about the Daniel Shaver incident, and this person was like an Antifa member, and they're like, yeah, no, like the police were right to kill him. I'm like, are you out of your mind? They're like, no, like he didn't follow the instructions. And I'm like, how do you not excuse this shooting, but you excuse, like, how do you excuse this shooting, but you don't excuse all the other ones?
Because there's no truth but power.
No truth but power. Only the narrative matters. And of course, speaking of only the narrative mattering, let's talk about the shootings that happened in California over the weekend. So there was 2 shootings. The last one was in Oakland. Kills 1, injures 7 others. 3rd mass shooting in California in 3 days.
It's been dangerous.
So this one was at a gas station. It was Monday evening, killed at least 1 person, injured at least 7. Shooting is reported after 6 p.m. And they're still looking for the person. But
so it's a shoot and run.
Yeah, it was a shoot and run. But the big one that happened over the weekend was this event in Monterey Park, Asian American haven, shattered by dance hall tragedy. What began as a night of celebration to mark the Lunar New Year quickly turned into a tragedy as a shooting spree left at least 10 people dead and 10 others wounded. Yes. It happened as thousands had gathered in the majority Asian American city of Monterey Park for the festival. Many expressed shock and fear on learning that a gunman had entered the Star Ballroom dance studio and fired multiple rounds at patrons before fleeing the scene. He has been identified as Hu Can Tran at 72.
Definitely white supremacist.
Yeah, definitely a white. A 72-year-old of Asian descent. His motive remains unclear. Wong Wei told LA Times that his friend was at the club but had been in the bathroom.
Seriously? That's his name?
Well, no. The guy Wong Wei, yes.
Wong Wei? That's the Wong Wei. Like,
I know.
Oh my god, I feel bad for that guy.
Oh, like I have a
So,
friend. Okay. This is a bit of a side note. He said
Wong Wei.
if he ever married an Asian girl,
Uh-huh.
that he would name their kid Wong Namba. Be like, oh hi, who is this Wong Namba? I'm like, oh, that's just mean.
Yeah, it's like that joke from like Austin Powers, where like they use like like bad like
Oh, the
really
girls.
dirty names for the
Yep.
girls, the two Asian girls, and like
Yeah.
foo. It's
Yep.
like okay,
Foo.
I know what you're doing.
Yep. So, yeah, like it was definitely a scene of chaos, a scene of panic, and a scene of disorder. But immediately, of course, after this shooting, there were many prominent leftists who were like, "Oh, this was a shooting at a Chinese New Year, so obviously it's a white supremacist. It was racially motivated." And then immediately afterwards, as soon as they found out that it was a 72-year-old Asian man, they're like, "This shooting didn't happen. We can't blame white people on this, so we have to blame guns."
Memory hole, memory hole.
Yeah. So Cheng Uyghur, my wife used to work at Monterey Park where the mass shooting took place. No one is safe. Republicans are constantly spreading fear about immigrants. Well, that wasn't what led to this shooting. Crime and drag queens, but the number one thing that makes us and our children unsafe is their favorite thing in the world: guns.
Of course.
Well,
by the way,
know.
he posted this before the shoot, like before they knew who the shooter was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
So I mean, this is the way that they always go.
So they make these posts about, okay, well, we have to blame guns because always we have to blame guns, and we have to blame white supremacy and Republicans because obviously that's the root cause, even though the shooter is Asian.
Yeah. By the way, like one thing that you can always notice with the left, the reason why they blame guns is because their goal is to blame guns, not to stop violence, but because they want to get rid of guns. That's why whenever anything happens, they don't care about the motive, they don't care about the reason, they don't care about who's involved, they don't care about anything. It's all the guns are the problem because that's what they want to get rid of. Conservatives, they're like, okay, we need to solve this problem.
Yeah, we need to address the root causes.
Like,
how do we haven't identified, of course, the root cause. Like it's still, of course, too early to tell what the root cause of these events are. Like the most likely outcome is that the root cause of most of these events is some form of mental illness, or unfortunately, lately, a lot of these mass shootings have been caused by law enforcement inaction.
Yeah, it's like in this case, it was the domestic dispute, particularly because like the guy who actually like shot up the place, he was that was his ex-wife. Was one of the people that was actually part of the deceased.
Like the places that I had read did not say that.
No, Matt Walsh covered it, and he basically said like, yeah, it's actually they determined that it was basically a domestic dispute because it was the ex-husband or like the one of the lady, and he went there to shoot her, but things got out of hand, and he basically ended up like killing more people than it sounds like he was intended, because he's a 72-year-old man.
Yep.
So these are not the kind of people that go in there like to kill as many people as they want. I think what happened was, in order to get to his wife, he had to shoot people who were maybe getting in his way or try to stop him. And so that sounds like what it was like going on. Again, this is a domestic dispute. This is the kind of thing that happens in gun-free zones. Again, conservatives are actually trying to solve the problems. Like liberals or leftists, all they want to do is they want a singular simplistic solution, which is ban guns, but doesn't actually solve the problem.
A single simplistic solution, quote unquote, but the solution is something that takes away power from the individual and gives it to the government.
It's a sleight of hand, basically, which is what our Canadian government is doing right now. They're blaming, like, okay, we have gun violence. Okay, who's causing the gun violence? That doesn't matter. We're going to take away all like rifles and all that. What about the hunters? Well, yeah, they don't need those. I'm like, well, they kind of do. It's like, well, yeah, no, we're trying to stop gun crime, but that won't stop gun crime.
Don't you want to stop gun violence?
Why do you hate victims?
Why do you hate children?
Yeah, why do you hate children?
Every single bloody like right here, and our children unsafe. You know what keeps the you know what would make the children safe? People with guns, having security guards, having armed teachers. These would keep children safe, because it would make active shooters actually scared to go into schools because they don't know where the people that can shoot them are.
It also makes crazy assumption. It assumes that it makes the assumption that there is no such thing as a regular citizen who is a good person who would actually use a gun for good.
Well, and of course, like
They
in
literally say that.
this situation, like the hero in this whole situation was a guy who wrestled the gun away from the old man.
Yeah.
Like he had to run up, and like of course, good on him, very heroic actions.
Yeah, of course.
But it did not have to cost 10 lives dead and 10 injured to stop this guy.
I mean, there's a scene from one of my favorite scenes from I think the movie Tombstone.
Yeah.
Okay. And in Tombstone, the sheriff basically, he's holding a guy in the prison, and the entire like it looks like a gigantic posse of people all show up at the house, and they all have guns. And there's the sheriff with his two two guns, and they're basically saying, if you don't give them to us, and they're trying to break the law by breaking them out of prison.
Yeah.
And then he says, like, if you don't give them to us, we're gonna kill you right here. He's like, ain't nobody gonna take them out of here. He's like, what are you gonna do? There's only one of you, and there's like 50 of us.
Yeah,
he's like,
I'll take a bunch down.
I'm definitely gonna take several of you with me. Who wants to go? It's like the great equalizer, right?
Yeah.
Guns are the big lie to try and tell you is that the only people who are moral and justified enough to use guns are the police and the government, essentially. Yep. That's the lie.
Well, and of course, that is what Governor Newsom is also saying. Newsom excoriates gun control opponents following California mass shootings.
Yeah.
So at a press conference, I went down to Monterey Park and I was invited to speak at 3 press conferences like this. And I said, nope. I watched them on my cell phone. I tell you what, I did that selfishly because I didn't have the guts to come and say the same things we hear again and again. That was tough. And then he goes on later
on about how
the common denominator is these damn guns. Gun safety saves lives. The modern gun safety movement started with Ronald Reagan. No, it didn't. He did not speak out for common sense gun control. And then, of course, Kevin McCarthy has not said a damn word about this shooting. It's like, well, does he have to comment on every shooting?
Well, I mean, like he's attributing motive when there could be like a million reasons why he hasn't made a statement or something like that.
Yeah,
really, it really.
Well, and of course, like this is his final remarks. Where has he been on gun safety reform? Where has the Republican Party been on gun safety reform? They've blocked it every step of the way. One state can't do it alone. Shame on them, and shame on those that allow and perpetuate that to be rewarded politically.
Yeah, this is a tactic by the left, by the way. This is what they do. They try to solve the problems. Their solutions suck. Their solutions create more problems, and then they say if it's the other people, it's the other team's fault. If they had given us everything we asked for, every single thing that we demand, then we wouldn't have this problem. It's like, you suck at solving the problem. You're only making things worse. And then now you're saying, like, well, it's their fault for not giving us everything we asked for. They do the same thing with the border. The border, they're like, there's like an open border. We're like, well, we'd be better off if those darn Republicans would only basically rubber stamp every single thing that we asked for. It's their fault. Like, it's such a sleazy tactic. Yeah, but this is why you really can't respect or trust people like this, because when they use this kind of sleazy tactic, they're not honest people.
No,
you can't. So Gavin Newsom it's pretty much a con artist.
Oh yeah, we knew long before the French Laundry, but most people found out at the French Laundry that he was a massive scam and con artist. But we do have to move on. So let's talk about some other scam and con artists. Talking about the doomsday clock moving closer to midnight amid unprecedented danger of Russia's war. So it's been moved closer to midnight as Russia's invasion of Ukraine has heightened concerns about global annihilation. In an update Tuesday, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists reset the clock from 100 seconds to 90 seconds, the closest it has ever been to midnight. And then in 5 years, it'll be 80 seconds. Oh, no.
Dun, dun, dun.
So Russia's invasion of Ukraine has increased the risk of nuclear weapons use, raised the specter of biological and chemical weapons use, hamstrung the world's response to climate change, and hampered international efforts to deal with other global concerns. It's a metaphor that visualizes the threat humanity faces from unchecked scientific and technological advances, according to the group comprised of experts in nuclear weapons, biological weapons, and climate change. Oh my gosh!
You know what it's like? It's like they said it's a metaphor. It's not an actual thing. It's just a metaphor to like how dangerous things are. It's like, here's a chart, and here, look at this graph. Here's how it's gonna go like this, and pretty soon it's gonna be disaster. Well, how do you know? Because it's on a chart. Like, oh my gosh, we're dead.
Yeah. No,
this is all virtue signaling about like how dangerous. Yeah.
Is this who I think it is? Like, this was from 2021, but I think that's Lori Lightfoot in that video.
You think so?
Today, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist leaves the doomsday clock unchanged.
No,
these are just like nameless,
nameless faces under masks.
Yeah, of course.
We don't know who it is.
No, it's a secret.
We just know that it's spelling doom.
Steven, do you know who else wears masks? Criminals. Coincidence? I think not.
Oh boy.
Oh, it's what, conspiracy theories? What are you talking about? What conspiracy theories? I'm not talking about any conspiracy theories.
Yeah, there are places that, of course, ban masks. You cannot go in the store with them.
Really? That's awesome. I would go there.
One is Subs and Such.
Is that a restaurant?
Yeah, it's a restaurant.
Is that the one in Airdrie?
No. It's Pagan. No,
it's in Calgary.
It's Barlow and
it's
it's Barlow and
Calgary.
61st.
It's in Calgary.
Shut up! I'm telling you where it is.
No, seriously, man. Like a lot of people who watch the show are not from Calgary or even Canada. So when you say like street names, I'm like, it's in Calgary. That's all you need to know.
Several people who watch the show are in Calgary, and they know those locations.
Okay.
So yes, good sandwiches, and they had a big sign back in over the summer saying no masks allowed.
Yeah, that's the way to
So
go.
I was like, I like the sign, guys. Then they gave my friend a free T-shirt. And
nice.
if you give them a good review on Google, they'll give you a free lunch.
Nice.
Very nice.
All right. Well, let's move on to the person that I kind of wish was wearing a soundproof mask. So much better.
Oh, it would be so much better. It would protect us from her heinous cackle. We're, of course, talking about Kamala Harris. She rallies against GOP push to roll back on abortion, quote-unquote, rights in the U.S.
Of course.
So VP Kamala Harris has rallied against efforts in Washington Republican-led states to restrict abortion on what would have been the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. Thank you. Thank you, Lord, it did not make it to 50 years.
Kavanaugh.
And Coney Barrett.
KGB.
KGB.
Oh, no, wait. Was it Amy Coney Barrett? ACB.
No, not the Russian Secret Service.
That's KGB. Come on, man.
Yep, I know. American values such as invoking fundamental American values such as freedom to make the case for protecting abortion access despite the Supreme Court's decision to eliminate not constitutional protection for it, just eliminate protections for it.
That's right.
It's not found in the Constitution.
We love all child sacrifice. That child sacrifice. Gotta have it.
Leading the administration's response on commemorating Roe on Sunday, Harris methodically details fights throughout history for certain liberties, such as civil rights and the right to vote for women, and tied that access to abortion, which Harris called the fundamental constitutional right of a woman to make decisions about her own body.
This is some nice euphemisms.
Yep. Let's just watch the video. It's just
do it.
So cringy.
It's cringe.
Years, Americans relied on the rights that Roe protected.
Nope.
Today, however, on what would have been its 50th anniversary, we speak of the Roe decision in the past tense.
Good.
Woo! Love it.
Because last June, the United States Supreme Court took away that constitutional right, a fundamental right, a basic freedom
to kill babies.
America from the women of America. The court's action has meant already
babies saved.
That many dedicated doctors and nurses now lose their ability
genocidal
to
freaks
care for their patients.
They're victims.
That providers risk going to jail
Good.
just for doing their job.
Which
Well,
is
their
killing
job
people.
is evil.
And that patients are denied critical care and
Nope,
even
not even
fear
close.
that they will be punished simply for seeking care.
Not
Nope.
true.
I'm pleased to announce that President Biden, I'm announcing it today, has issued a presidential memorandum on this issue. Members of our cabinet and our administration are now directed, as of the president's order, to identify barriers to access to prescription medication and to recommend actions to make sure that doctors can legally prescribe, that
Baby-killing
pharmacies
drugs.
can dispense,
Baby-killing
and
drugs.
that women can
Say it.
secure safe
Baby-killing drugs.
effective medication.
Baby-killing drugs.
Euphemism after
Baby-killing drugs.
euphemism
Baby-killing
after
drugs.
euphemism.
Baby-killing drugs. Baby-killing drugs. That's pretty much
I
what they're
watch
sharing.
a lot.
I don't know.
No, that's
That is just creepy.
Super
It's
cringy.
almost as creepy as
YouTube?
Kamala Harris.
I mean, it's close. It's
It's
darn
close. It's close.
By the way, so like we didn't catch it on this one, but obviously that it was making the rounds as well.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was a different speech, but
Another part of the
she
speech.
she invoked the Declaration of Independence,
Yep.
and obviously left
And
out the
omitted
part
a
about
few
life.
parts.
Yeah, the part about
Well,
life.
she admitted the part about life, and then she admitted about she's like, we've been endowed with certain rights as Americans.
By whom?
It's just like,
Nobody.
yeah, who's giving you that right? As Americans, no.
That's Americans. No, you
Because
don't
that
get
means the
to-
government controls rights, and that means that if the government decides to take away your life, they have the right to do so because they're the ones who gave you that right.
Mhm.
But because they're not the ones who granted you those rights, they're not the giver of human rights, that it comes from the creator, aka God, then the government has no right to take that away.
No. But see, that's where the logic breaks down. And I think Matt Walsh does a great job of like really
he
breaking
did.
down the implications of that, because really what it comes down to is it's really simple. If rights are given by the government, then the government can like create rights, but it also can take them away because they're the ones that gave them to you, right? But if like rights are like fundamental, something that exists and cannot be granted or given, then the government that's meant to be a block on the government. Here's the problem, though: most of the rights that we're hearing about nowadays are completely and totally arbitrary, and the assumption is that the government's the one creating and making these new rights, but they're pretending like these are like inalienable, that they're the same as the original rights, but they're not. They're created, and the problem here is that now they're just making up rights as they go. So the right, like for example, the idea of women's rights, it's in the thing. Do you know why? Because any right that exists, particularly like the ones that originally were part of the when they created them, or when they basically identified them, every right applied to all humans. That means every human had the same right: the right of religion, the right of speech, the right, everything applied to all of them equally. What the left has done, they created specialty rights that only apply to one group.
Yeah.
When you do that, you've now created a contradiction that eventually one group will win out over the other. And the contradictions are like trans rights, gay rights, women's rights, abortion rights, even like immigration rights. They even talk about like, oh, they have a right to immigrate if they want to. It's like, no, that's not a thing. They've created a completely new category, and this is just never going to work. Because now they're basically justifying, like, customizing rights. They're gonna take away the legitimate rights that we have, and they're gonna replace them with totally invented rights that they want. So this is their game. This is their ploy. They're totally and completely undermining the entire premise of rights, and they're creating a new one that they create, and they decide what rights exist and what rights don't. This is why they talk about like there's no such thing as gun rights. It's like, well, no, that's actually a legitimate right, the right to protection or self-protection. But yeah, totally invented, totally nonsense. Kamala Harris is just one more con artist in this entire game. Players got to play.
Players gotta play. All right. I don't even know how to transition to the next one because it's all. I guess like it is regarding speaking of con artists.
Con artists and like the people who are artificially creating the conditions to destroy America.
Yep. These four cities will suffer a 2008 crash in home values from Goldman Sachs. As interest rates continue to skyrocket, home prices across the country have continued to plummet, and Goldman Sachs said the declines will only worsen and extend throughout 2023. In a note to clients earlier this month, Goldman Sachs forecasted that 4 American cities in particular should gear up for a seismic decline compared to that of the 2008 housing crash. So San Jose, Austin, Phoenix, and San Diego will likely see boom and bust declines more than 25%.
Notice how 2 of these are in California?
Yep. And such declines would rival those seen around 15 years ago during the Great Recession. Home prices across the United States fell around 27%. According to the S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller Index, our 2023 revised forecast primarily reflects our view that interest rates will remain at elevated levels longer than currently priced in, the 10-year Treasury yields peaking at 2023 Q3. As a result, we're raising our forecast for the 30-year fixed mortgage rates to 6.5.
Yeah.
And of course,
this may actually spill over into Canada too. Because I mean, like, you have to remember, there's three Canadian cities that have insanely overinflated home prices. Where like they're so out of sync with reality that it's only a matter of time before those cities break horribly. Vancouver, obviously, Toronto.
Well, and of course, if you look at these numbers or this map, then like Austin and Phoenix and these other places are bad, but there's a lot of other places around the country that are easily in the -10 rate.
Yep.
Like Tampa, Atlanta, Charlotte, Boston, Austin, Dallas, Phoenix, LA, San Diego, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, and Denver.
Yeah,
that's insane.
What we have to know is, and this is just basically meant to kind of like, prepare you. 2023 is going to be a brutal year for a lot of people and for a lot of like countries and places because they've basically set up a horrible economy. By the way, the inflation crisis was not inevitable, nor was it something that was unavoidable. It was absolutely created on purpose by way too many world governments, all following the same blueprint. That it's basically the blueprint, and I'll give you the basic idea. This is all on purpose. They have this idea of the Great Reset. They want to basically destroy a country's economy so that the country completely collapses into chaos. And then as soon as chaos comes in, they're like, oh, we'll save you. And they have like this entire plan of how they're going to completely change a country that used to be democratic, it used to be capitalist, and they're going to completely switch it over to a communist style, authoritarian style government. This is all planned. Canada's on board, New Zealand's on board, Australia's on board. All these countries are doing the same thing. So it's all planned, and it's not by accident. This is just the first sign that we're seeing of what's coming. So just prepare yourselves. This 2023 is going to be a tough year financially.
Yep, it definitely will. And of course, it's not just going to be a tough year financially. If those in Davos have their way, then of course they will keep you from saying what you want to say, including on Twitter, which of course Elon just took over.
No, it's misinformation, Stephen.
European Commission's Vice President for Values and Transparency, Vera Jourova, warned Elon Musk amid the continuing fallout of the billionaire's $44 billion takeover of Twitter. Speaking with Euronews Next, Jourova said the platform could face serious sanctions if it did not comply with the new EU online regulations. Asked if the bloc had enough clout to make platforms like Twitter comply, which aimed at creating safer digital spaces, she said there was nothing stronger than legislation and Yikes!
Yeah. They're remember, they got to cramp down on misinformation, which is the big boogeyman now.
So we will have the Digital Services Act will have the code of practice as part of this legislation, Jourova said. At the same time, we cannot accept, for instance, illegal content online and so on. So our message was clear. We have rules which have to be complied with, otherwise there will be sanctions.
Yep.
My goodness, these people are absolutely crazy.
They're Bond villains. I'm telling you, they're Bond villains.
Oh yeah, they are.
They're
you don't think so, level. And then it's just like, oh my gosh, yes, you are totally.
And they're not even trying. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They're so arrogant.
Yeah, saying the most powerful force is government imposed sanctions. And I'm like, no, that should not be the most powerful force. Because that's just screaming, I love tyranny.
Yeah. And like they're people who covered the WEF forum or like in Davos, like during that week, so many crazy things were said there that like you actually listen to them. You're like, are you freaking serious? That's why last week when we were covering this, I called it basically like the Mein Kampf conference.
Yeah,
because they're basically like like bragging about like their horrifying, like horrible plans for world domination, and it's crazy that they just literally let it go. They're not even trying to hide it anymore, and that leads to what happened tonight. Because tonight we actually started recording late because I was kind of delayed. Now, in order to kind of frame this really well, we're going to talk about this story from True North News. Again. They're setting you up to try to like say like the most dangerous thing out there, the most dangerous boogeyman, the the thing you have to be scared of out in the ether is like conspiracy thinkers or conspiracy
theorists.
Okay, so like take it away, Steve.
So federal government claims nearly a quarter of Canadians exhibit conspiracy thinking. A poll conducted by the Privy Council office claimed that nearly a quarter of Canadians exhibited high levels of conspiratorial thinking. Also said that only 42% of Canadians trusted federal institutions to be truthful, while the remainder had doubts about the information related to them by Ottawa. Well,
now, by the way, really
that
quick,
means that 42% are stupid.
Well, the idea there, like when they said that 42%, they talk about it like it's like a given that all Canadian institutions should be trusted. They literally talk like that. Like, oh my gosh, they don't trust them. That's the problem. The problem is that we're not trusted. I'm like, why aren't you trusted? Because of this conspiracy. This is the gaslighting.
Yep.
Totally disingenuous.
Yeah. Instead, most Canadians place their trust in social media and close friends or relatives over the government. So that 35% of respondents were high school media trusting, while 23% were found to be non-trusting altogether and exhibit relatively high conspiratorial thinking, according to government researchers.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, like remember how we talked about it initially about how we talked initially about how euphemisms. Okay, Kamala Harris used euphemisms. It's just normal for her. She's talking about child sacrifice, about baby murder, but she's using like nice sounding words to frame it in a positive light. Yeah. Right? They do the same thing with like this is how they deal with criticisms. They're doing something bad. They're doing something evil. They're doing something wrong. And how do they plan for the obviously emerging criticism that will come? Because there will be criticism. They know that there's going to be criticism, so they formulated a strategy. We're going to do something terribly evil. Then, when people start making noise about it or criticizing or pushing back, we're going to accuse the people pushing back of themselves being evil for questioning it. This is the drag queen story hour. They go out and do something like horribly terrifying, like that's really like legitimately evil. Then when people like complain, they accuse the people complaining of being like the evil ones. Oh, you're causing people to die. You're being intolerant. Like this is the strategy. This is how they basically discredit and gaslight and try to like demonize any critics. That's how they silence dissent. That's how they get people to go along with this, shutting you up and not letting. What the heck's going on over there? Are you fine? You all right there, buddy? Nope. I heard like a half throw up. Oh my gosh. So basically, they basically tried to like they try to like get you to believe that the people who are actually fighting for your good and trying to get to the truth and trying to expose what's going on, that they're the bad guys, they're the ones that are evil, they're the ones who you have to watch out for. And this is a strategy that they have executed like so repeatedly that it's predictable. It's going to come, but yet they just do it. It's just repetition, keep doing it every single time. They just do it. So most of the people in media, so like Chenka Uyghur, who we talked about before, and like all the leftist media and all politicians, they've basically like been trained to do this. They basically always do the exact same thing. They, whenever anything happens, they already know what to do because they've had this drilled into them, and they just do the same thing over and over. So we think that they're reacting legitimately. We think that they're doing this because this must be what like that they're talking from the bottom of their heart, but they're not. They have an entire strategy that they've basically been taught by PR managers, by all these leftist people that they get trained on this stuff at WEF conferences or anything like that. Hey, Steph, how's it going? Welcome to the show, Stephanie. How's it going?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah. How's Steven doing?
Seamless transition.
Yeah, very seamless. Just kind of smooth. You just kind of, like slid in there like a glove. It was great. Very impressive.
Yes.
Yes. I hear your lovely husband had a bit of an embarrassing moment today.
What embarrassing moment?
Where he basically let his cheeks fly for all the world to see. Apparently.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, totally. We're just gonna obfuscate, pretend like it didn't happen, just complete and total denial. You know what? Denial works. Denial is totally fine. No worries. Yeah. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I was on a TikTok live.
Oh.
I'm at 1,000 followers and more.
Well done. Well, you know what, Stephanie, you are quite the phenom on social media. I've seen your Instagram posts and all that. I love how you actually do the the redhead kind of like filter where you can see freckles and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, Steph is a redhead. I'm not sure if I can see it, but I don't know.
Are you okay?
No, just you know how to turn it off.
Would you like to guide me? Okay.
So Kit down need to do the outro, and then
of course.
Once he's done, then press record. Then,
awesome.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, Danny.
No worries. What, are we ending here, Steven?
If there's more to be said, I shall be your cheerleader, and then we can do outro.
Okay. Yeah, there was a video I was leading up to. I'm not sure if it's possible to play it. Go to like the Facebook tab that he has there. He has like one tab that's Facebook. Right there, yep. And here, play this video. By the way, for everyone who's maybe watching, this happened tonight. So first click the mute button on the bottom right there. The mute on the video. Right there, yep. Click that. Okay, now you can play it. All right, so this is really, really weird. So I was just on Deerfoot coming north from Deerfoot Mall, and traffic was like really slow. And for some reason, you got to full screen it.
They closed down Deerfoot. I'm not sure why. But like I thought it was an accident, like it seemed to be indicating a car accident. But for some reason, all it was is cop cars. Just cop cars. And they're literally blocking the road right over there. No traffic allowed through. And I just came to look and I'm like, is there something going on? And I'm like, nothing. The road is wide open. There's no accident anywhere. So I don't know what's going on, but I've heard of this kind of stuff before. Like, I'm not sure what the rationale is. It's just cops. There's no ambulances. There's no fire trucks, nothing. It's just cops blocking the road, completely blocked off Deerfoot North and redirected all traffic to Pagan. And I just kind of came to look, I'm like, is something going on here? And like, traffic southbound's fine? Nothing, no accident. No rationales to why they're not letting traffic through, but I don't know. The cops are up to something, it's weird, it's bizarre, so
I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something. Next stop there. So this happened tonight. This is why I was late to the show, because for some reason I'm on Deerfoot, which is the busiest like roadway in all of Calgary, and suddenly there's like a massive traffic jam. I'm thinking like major accident. That's usually what causes those kind of things. But then it turns out only cops. They're just blocking all the access, no explanation whatsoever. Like, I know that there's a possibility, maybe there's some rationale, but Stephen had this experience, so a similar experience a while back, I think during COVID, where 2:30 in the morning, suddenly they just blocked off Deerfoot, no explanation, no rationale given. He even tried to ask a cop about it, and the cop got super angry at him, like told him to get back and like close your window or whatever. And so if you're a rational person, if you're just like a regular person, you'd be like, okay, maybe there's some reason, some rationale. But if you're a person who knows that the government of Calgary, like the Calgary City Council and people here, that they're not like climate fanatics, then if you're actually reasonable, you realize something fishy is going on. Because they don't you don't just close a highway, especially a massive major highway, for no reason. My guess, I'm thinking that they're doing some kind of training exercise for like something that they're planning in the future, probably climate lockdowns, which is something I've heard about happening. Stephanie, have you heard about this?
I have not actually officially heard of it, but I do remember some accounts of this kind of thing happening, and it seems quite suspicious. It's like, I think I remember hearing one time about Stephen trying to make his way onto Beddington, but he couldn't because it was all just blocked up, and it wasn't an accident. It was just they were sitting there.
Yeah. Blocking the road, no explanation given of any kind. Like, this is suspicious behavior by police, because it's one thing for them to do, I don't know, like an exercise in the middle of the night. This is in the middle of the day. This was like at 7:00. So not like rush hour, but still like thousands of cars were affected. I don't even know how long they blocked it for. So just letting you know, this is coming home. And these kind of things are slowly starting to creep their way closer and closer. And a lot of people are just happy with, whatever they're doing out there, like in the World Economic Forum, whatever they're doing in Ottawa. Well, you know what? Let them do their thing. But pretty soon, this is going to start hitting you closer to home. And yeah, it's not looking good for dear old country of Canada. Yeah. You're a regular person, Stephanie. Do you know anything about what happened in World Economic Forum, or in like what's happening around the world?
I apologize. I've been very much focused on my book stuff.
I get it. See, that's the thing. Most people are not in any way, keeping up with what's happening out there. So it's kind of crazy. But anyway, Stephanie's got to go take care of her lovely hubby, and hopefully nurse him back to health, whatever's going on. But yep, looks like you're getting the signal. So you can get the outro ready, so you can go take care of that man. And
Outro.
No, don't play the outro.
No,
No.
just stop recording.
Yeah.